Since childhood, Nora was different from her peers because she had a lot of weight. The girl considered herself inferior and tried her best to become like everyone else, but she could not for long sit on a diet or refuse her favorite calorie-dense foods. After graduating from high school, Nora became a teacher and got a job as an elementary school teacher. Working with children was much easier for her than with adults because there was much less bitterness and prejudice in their hearts. Nora was very clumsy, and that was another reason for her reticence. Mockery from others did not leave Nora at work either. She always had the oddest things happen to her, dropping magazines or wiping a chalkboard with her back. Her colleagues laughed at her and asked her to be more careful, since she was, after all, working with children. Nora tried her best. Some of the older students teased her behind her back, but she tried not to take offence, and in general she did not notice the mockery in her direction. One day, the junior classes were sent on a trip to the sights of the city, which had important historical value. The children were noisy and it was hard to keep track of everyone. Although there were several accompanying adults, Nora watched her class closely. She was telling them about the monument that stood near the lake. Suddenly she heard her colleagues scream. "What happened?" she asked. "Tommy Ryan is missing." "He's at the lake," shouted somebody, and everyone rushed to the lake. The boy was standing on the bridge, but apparently he was very frightened when the teacher started calling for him because he stumbled and fell into the lake. Nora's heart practically stopped. She wasn't good at swimming, and now that the child was drowning, there was no doubt she had to jump. "Watch my kids!" yelled Nora, and hurried toward the lake. She stepped on something sharp and felt a sharp pain in her leg, but she did not stop to figure out what happened. Time was ticking by the seconds. When she reached the child, who was already exhausted and had time to sob up water, Nora grabbed him and dragged him to shore. Her body did not want to obey, and the pain in her leg was only getting worse. When she reached the shore, Nora gave him first aid to keep the water out of his lungs. Someone from the onlookers managed to call an ambulance. Nora was anxious about the children who were in her care. It was important to her to make sure they all made it home alive and well, but her mind slowly fogged and she lost consciousness. Nora regained consciousness in the hospital room. The woman moved her leg, but it hurt a lot. She remembered everything that had happened and sobbed softly. She looked at the nightstand, but there was no phone. "I hope someone took my purse," thought Nora. "Good morning." She heard a pleasant male voice and looked up. The doctor walked over to her bed, put a chair next to it, and sat down. "Yesterday you lost a lot of blood. How are you feeling now?" Nora shrugged her shoulders. "My leg hurts a little." Of course, she was downplaying it, because her leg hurt a lot. "The nurse will give you a painkiller. You hurt your foot a lot. I don't know what exactly you stepped on in the lake, but we did give you a tetanus shot as a precaution. The wound has been cleaned, but will need to be treated until it is fully healed. You'll have to stay in the hospital for 5 days. Nora pressed her lips together. She couldn't imagine how the children would manage without her. They will assign a new teacher, of course, but they were getting ready for the fall festival. They had planned the show together, and now they would have to get used to a new teacher and most likely learn new roles. "And the boy? There was a boy with me," worried Nora. "He was taken home yesterday by his parents. They asked me to thank you. By the way, your mother is waiting in the hallway. You can see her after the examination." The examination didn't last long, but all the while Nora was wishing that she had been given an anesthetic as soon as possible. She was beginning to shake from the pain. The doctor frowned, examining her leg. "Will it be all right?" asked the woman cautiously. "It will be. I won't say it's going to be easy, but we'll heal the leg. You are a heroine. Your colleagues told me how bravely you rushed to save the child. It's a feat, I might say." Nora shook her head. She didn't consider it a feat, because any person who thinks a little bit more than just about himself would have done the same. Nora attributed her colleagues' behaviour to their confusion. After the injection, her mother was allowed to go in to her daughter, and they talked for a long time about how everything had happened and about how much admiration her colleagues now spoke about Nora. But she didn't care whether they admired her or not. She was afraid of what might have been if she had not been afraid of the depths and her poor swimming skills. She had succeeded in saving the child, and that was the most important thing. The doctor's daily visits became routine. Nora liked Wilson, but she could not even let her sympathy prevail because she thought that a man like him would never look at someone like her. "Nora, you're very kind and brave," the doctor would say relentlessly when he was coming to check on her. From time to time, she even managed to talk to him about subjects distant from treatment, and Nora put such moments aside, not hoping that she would ever be able to talk to such a nice man again about the fall festival or about the kennels for homeless animals that she was actively helping. "If possible, I'd take them all. But it's impossible to keep big dogs in an apartment. He needs a lot of space and freedom," she said. Wilson smiled and nodded. After a week, the wound began to heal vigorously. There was no more pain, but Nora could only walk with a limp. The stitches were removed, and Nora was discharged home. The next day she went back to work, although she was advised to stay home on sick leave for a little longer. But Nora had absolutely no desire to stay inside four walls. At school, the woman noticed that the attitude toward her had drastically changed. Colleagues would come up to her and ask how she was doing, and students would look at her with a kind of pride, as if she was an idol for them. She was glad that now no one would make jokes about her. Nora thought of Wilson every day. She missed talking to him and his warm smiles. She was sad, but realized that it was unlikely that anything could have worked out between them. A month later, the young woman went to the kennel to volunteer and spend time with the animals she missed so much. To her great surprise, she met Wilson there. "Hello, Nora. I decided to take your advice. Communicating with animals can really save from loneliness." He smiled. "Hello. How nice of you." A happy smile appeared on the woman's lips. "You've lost quite a bit of weight. Are you okay? How is your leg?" the doctor asked anxiously. "Thank you for your efforts. I have almost stopped limping," replied Nora, and mentally added that she had lost weight from unrequited love. "By the way, Nora, I've missed talking to you. Let's go to a cafe and have coffee." "Aren't you embarrassed by my clumsiness and obesity?" she asked, afraid to call things by their proper names. "Should it be embarrassing? You're beautiful, and I've never met a girl more human and gentler than you." It was hard for Nora to believe that this was really happening to her. But after a year of relationship, Wilson was able to make Nora accept and love herself for who she was. And his love was the best motivation for her to change for the better. And she could pull herself together, start taking care of her health, and finally buy clothes a couple of sizes smaller that she had always dreamed of.